Hey everyone, Fina here from Fina Reads. Welcome and welcome back to my channel. And as you can see, no, this direction, I don't know. I have a guest with me. Yay! I have been teasing in my community posts a little bit that I had an interview lined up with someone I'm crazy excited about to talk with. And as you can see, it's Benjamin. Yay! It's one of my favorite authors. And I'm already getting all excited. So we better just stop and let Benjamin introduce himself. No, over there.
Hiya. Thanks for having me on. I'm Benjamin Aeveryn. I'm an author of, I'd say, like upmarket dark fantasy. I write a bit of sci-fi too, but I don't have much of that kind of out there for you to read at the moment. And yeah, I've got my Rainfallen trilogy is fully published and out there to grab if you're interested. And I'm also currently working on Echoes of Alarion, which starts with Venomborn, which is currently out, but we're going to be doing a big kind of refresh of that book coming out towards the end of this year, hopefully. So that's a good place to start if you're looking to get into my work. Maybe wait for the relaunch of Venomborn and get stuck into Echoes of Alarion.
All right. So relaunch, does this mean you're like relaunch as in cover relaunch or relaunch as in you're potentially changing a little bit of where the story is going?
So it's mostly the cover. I have tweaked the text a little bit, probably not enough to, like, if someone's already got the book and they've read it, I wouldn't say you don't need to buy it again. Nothing about the story has kind of materially changed. I just tweaked a few lines here and there where I thought I may as well, since I'm relaunching it, I'll go through and have a look. And there were just some bits where I kind of thought, well, I'll just fiddle with this line and I'll move a comma here, but it's mostly the same book. I had a bit of trouble with the cover. I originally commissioned the same artist that did the Rainfallen covers, who is great, and he did a great job. I've got no shade towards him or the job that he did at all, but when we kind of got to the end of the project, I realized that it just wasn't right for this book, for Venomborn, what he'd done. But I'd already got a release date lined up and I didn't want to let people down. So I kind of hastily made...
Thank you for that. Thank you for that.
Yeah, I kind of hastily made this cover myself. I've sort of been trying to teach myself design, but I'm not at a professional standard. So I kind of thought this will be good enough, maybe for now, and then we can change it later. I then commissioned another cover, and the initial designs for that came back. They weren't right either. So I then contacted a new illustrator who's working on the new cover, and he couldn't do it for a couple of months because he was busy. And basically just all of these things kind of spiraled to the point where what I thought was going to be kind of an easy, quick turnaround was kind of taking so long that I kind of thought at this stage we've lost a lot of momentum. I feel like I haven't been able to put my all into promoting the book because I feel like not quite right about the cover and all of this. So it was just kind of like a series of like small unfortunate events that have kind of led to this situation where I kind of thought the best thing to do is just clean slate. I'll do a big relaunch and kind of make a big kind of fanfare around it. I've hired a really great illustrator and a new designer as well. And I just thought it was a good opportunity to kind of hit the ground running kind of thing and kind of give it a second chance. So hopefully book one will relaunch and then book two will only be a couple of months after. So
all right. So what's your timeline plan for that?
I've already read book one, won't have ages to wait for book two. Like there won't be a big delay. But yeah.
That's good. That's always good. So what's your timeline plan for that? For the relaunch of book one and then launching book two? What's the rough timeline for that?
It is not kind of fully nailed down just yet. Mostly because I'm sort of working with the illustrator at the moment. I actually just this morning got the first sketches back. So it's going to kind of depend on just how long the creative process takes. You can't always rush these things. Yep, I'm hoping to relaunch in November.
Okay.
So don't necessarily don't mark it in your calendars just yet. But I'm thinking November and then maybe February, March time for book two. but yeah, we'll see.
Awesome. I'm excited for that one. So we've talked now a lot about Venomborn, but you haven't even talked about what it is about. Do you want to give us a quick summary of what Venomborn even is about?
Oh man, I'm really bad at this. I should be better. Venomborn is let's see. It is so the Echoes of Valarian series is a epic fantasy that is kind of inspired a little by the Realm of the Elderlings series by Robin Hobb, and it's inspired a bit by Cradle by Will White.
All right.
So I wanted to see if I could kind of take some of these progression fantasy mechanics, like having a bit of a crunchy magic system, and see if I could make that work in a world that was more of a typical epic fantasy world, and that was a bit more grounded in a sense. So you've kind of got these grounded characters and kind of a sort of political atmosphere that feels sort of authentic or a bit more realistic, but kind of contrasted them with a really sort of crunchy, sort of hard magic system. Because I wasn't seeing much of that. Like you either kind of had like kind of softer magic systems in these kind of more down-to-earth worlds like in Game of Thrones or Realm of the Elderlings, or you were kind of getting the crunchy magic systems in worlds that almost felt structured around them, which is also really cool. Like the Stormlight Archive, where that has like a very sort of hard magic system and everything in the world is sort of built up around it. I kind of wanted to sort of mix the two in a way that sort of felt familiar, but fresh at the same time. And this story is about essentially a country is under siege by this group called the Tarnished Raiders, who arrive all in this like shiny plate, like iridescent shining armor, and nobody knows quite where they've come from, and they start raiding the coast. And they have these kind of wyvern creatures, fox wyverns with them, and the army can't stand against them. They don't have a chance to kind of fight against this force, and the only people that are strong enough to maybe stand against them are the Venomborn, who are people with magic powers, essentially, that they've gotten from being born to mothers that are addicted to a wine made from fermented monster venom. So yeah, that's that. I'm just rambling now. This is the trouble.
No, that's okay. I love
to
to hear you talk about it. That's totally fine. Like I love the description of it, but because you're like you're explaining your book like you write your book a little bit. There's a little bit that is being revealed at a time, and everything you're saying something like, wait, what? Wait,
Yeah.
what?
I think
go ahead.
Like a trouble that I always have with describing my books is I don't know if I should describe, like kind of the genre and structure first, or if I should describe the plot or the characters, or if I should talk about the themes, because to me, these are all kind of distinct, like avenues. Like I could give you a description of the series that was like almost wholly thematic. You know, it's about parental relation, like the relationship between a parent and child. It's about imperialism, which you get a bit more of that in the next book. It's about our connection with nature. It's about collective, kind of collectivist society as well, because like the country that it's set in used to have a king, and now they're kind of trying to do this system that's sort of based on guilds and is a bit more democratic. And so you've got all of this stuff, but none of that really relates directly to what I would just call the plot, kind of capital P plot. And then, so yeah, I do always struggle with kind of condensing all of these things down into like one kind of pithy logline type thing.
Yeah, which I can see that because as you just described yourself, there's a lot of stuff happening in your book. So it's not just a fantasy story with lit RPG elements. There's so much more to the story. Rainfallen, the same with Venomborn too, right? Like you go through the parental theme. Like, I loved how Kite, one of the main characters, right, how he kept reminiscing about the relationship with his parents and how everything happened, and how he even went back to the grave in one scene and then was sitting there and thinking through certain things. There's a lot of depth to your story, not just from one perspective, but from so many perspectives. And that's why you're one of my favorite authors, right? Because you're exploring them in such a kind of seamless way that it doesn't feel like, oh, it's an info dump about something at any given point, but it's all woven into the story, and you're moving from one aspect to the other in like in just a very interesting way that I've also not seen necessarily in other fantasy books. So I can understand that it is difficult to describe, like, what is, like, how do I say what my book is about in 2 sentences, because I don't think it's easy. Yeah.
And it's sometimes what a book might be about, kind of most to me, won't necessarily be what it maybe means to other people, and it might not necessarily be how I try and sell it. When I'm marketing my books, I tend to focus quite heavily on the plot elements and these kind of more. So with Venomborn, I focus on the venom magic, which is pretty cool, and there are monsters in it, and the fox wyverns, and all of this stuff is like very splashy and cool and draws people in. But while I'm writing it, I'm a lot more thinking about like the stuff that you just mentioned. Like I'm more kind of there with the characters and thinking about what do I want to say with this book? What themes do I want to explore? And that's kind of more what's important for me. But if people come for the dragons, that's fine. Like you're totally welcome as well. Like, there's no gatekeeping here. Like it's all, equally valid.
Yeah, it's a fantasy book for a lot of reader types. We can put it that way, right?
Hopefully.
I mean,
that's
yeah, I mean, if you're a fantasy nerd, you get a lot of unique stuff in this series. If you're a character lover, you definitely get a lot of character depth and character development here. If you're a magic system lover, there's a lot to uncover here with a magic system that is very unique to the fantasy world, I find. It has lit RPG elements, it has plot elements. I mean, it's literally a book for everyone. It's dark, though. So that's something you probably should know. Both of them, Rainfallen and Venomborn, are a bit on the darker side. There's a lot of hope, but they're a bit on the darker side, right? You're exploring more darker themes with it.
I say if there's anybody watching who's like doesn't like things too dark, Venomborn is, I would say, the lighter of the two series. Rainfallen gets very bleak at times, whereas
no kidding.
Venomborn, I try to keep it lighter. I didn't always succeed because I think I do naturally gravitate towards kind of, I don't know, mature themes, I guess. But Venomborn, I think is, or like for a teenage audience, I think Venomborn would be okay maybe for a 16-year-old to pick up, whereas I probably wouldn't recommend Rainfallen for a 16-year-old. Unless they're a more mature 16-year-old. And I think when I was 16, I was reading books like that, but probably most people weren't.
So we're talking about Rainfallen. So tell us a little bit more about that series. That is a finished trilogy with an additional novella in between, right? Like it's between book 2 and 3, I believe, is Blackcap, right?
It's between book 1 and 2, but it's kind of ambiguous in the way it's written. Like you could read it really at any point, I think, and they won't spoil each other. Okay. So
that's good.
Describe Rainfallen. So Rainfallen is a kind of dark fantasy adventure set about 300 years in the future after an apocalyptic event, which I call the turning of the rain, which is basically when rain, how to say without giving spoilers, these creatures started appearing in the rain called rain wights, and if you're out in the rain, they will grab you and drag you off and eat you, basically. So that's kind of caused like the collapse of society, and at the same time, kind of the fairy tale magic and monsters are slowly seeping back into the world. The idea behind it was kind of that this is all like almost like an immune response from planet Earth, kind of, so that we've been hurting the Earth with, climate change and things like this and damaging the environment. And so the Earth had responded by bringing this monsters of folklore back to kind of not punish us, but kind of put things back in balance. And the Rainwights are part of that too. And so this takes place in the future in Britain, where obviously it rains quite a lot. So the threat of the Rainwights is always there, and it kind of sort of a little bit inspired by like zombie stories and things, which I really love, like the Walking Dead and The Last of Us. Also inspired by grimdark fantasy, like The First Law by Joe Abercrombie. A big inspiration for book one was actually what's it called? How can I not remember? Best Served Cold.
Too many books in the world. Too many books.
Yeah. We start with a revenge story in Rainfallen, and it kind of evolves into something more than that. I joke kind of behind closed doors that it's secretly a romance. It's secretly a romantasy in a way, and
I love it.
The kind of all the darkness and all the kind of vengeance and all of that is really just kind of there to give me an excuse to tell a love story.
That boys can read, right?
Yeah.
A love story of romantic for boys. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Snuck that in there so they don't realize that they're reading a love story until it's too late and they can't escape.
That is awesome. Yeah, and I mean, that's what I find so funny about, or not funny, but that's what I find so interesting about Rainfallen is it's a post-apocalyptic story, but when you read it, of course, you see that, right? There's explanation as to the world. I believe they were even wearing jeans and whatnot, right? So there are things in the world where like, okay, this is definitely in the future. It's not a medieval time. But then you have things like castles and tarp cities, and there's no electricity really. And you're like, so wait, this is more fantasy. So I always say when I describe your book, it's technically a post-apocalyptic sci-fi with heavy fantasy elements. And I love that mix. Like I find it interesting when authors explore genre bending themes and try to combine genres, especially something like sci-fi and fantasy I find that incredibly fascinating. And Rainfallen again is so unique in that sense because you actually like pulled it off. It is a post-apocalyptic time, as you just said, right? 300 years in the future.
Yeah.
But it feels like an Arthurian Knights at the Round Table type of story at the same time. And it's so fascinating, again, how that beautifully weaves together and without any issues. Like you're just reading it and you're like, yep, that's what it is. It perfectly works.
It's a really hard thing to balance as well. I really wanted to write something, it sounds almost weird, but deliberately anachronistic, where, you've got those medieval elements and some things that are kind of more modern, some things almost futuristic in a way. And it's quite tricky. You have to, because every time a character is going to really interact with any sort of object in the world, I have to stop and think, would this be something that survived from our time? Is this going to be something they had to redevelop? Like they have these massive reinforced umbrellas in this series to kind of keep them short-term protected from the Rainwights. They're not perfect, but they'll keep you safe for a bit. So this is almost like a new technology that they've had to develop. Whereas, a lot of the things are more medieval. Like a lot of the newer clothes are made with very old traditional techniques that feel medieval. But you still got some clothes left over from today. So they might be wearing jeans, but then they'll also have a cloak that's been made in a kind of traditional medieval fashion. And I really thrive on that kind of stuff. I think it can sort of push away some people. They find it a little bit inaccessible in a way, maybe. Like it kind of bumps them out a bit. But I think the sacrifice is kind of worth it in the end to sort of do something that is a little bit interesting, hopefully. But that was sort of my thought behind it. Yeah,
no, I love it. I mean, it's, it was one of my favorite series. When did I read it? Like 2 years ago, I think you finished it, right? Did you finish it in 2024 or 2023?
I finished it last year, I think last June.
Wait, I have the book here.
The last book came out. You probably would have read it a little bit earlier because I think you had an arc.
I probably did.
Um,
2024, yes. So
yeah.
Cask Eight Blade, which by the way is also the coolest title ever, is was published in 2024. So yeah, so it was my favorite series then of last year too,
Thank you.
because of its uniqueness. Like all these elements together created something that, and I've read a lot of fantasy books in my life, created something that I've never read before. And it's, I mean, I'm repeating myself. It's done in such an amazing way that it just feels natural. And it's such a cool story to explore. And it's not just the characters that are like going through very unique scenarios and you're really putting them through the ringer. We talk about that in a second. It's not just that it's a post-apocalyptic with, you know, fantasy, heavy fantasy elements. It's also you decided to work with fantasy creatures that you don't see very often in stories as well. I mean, rain rights, right?
Yeah.
Where do you see rights in a fantasy book? And then you have a bunch of other like fantasy creatures that are showing up in the world that are coming back to life, right? That you don't see in your typical fantasy. Yes, there's a dragon too eventually, but for those
I
dragon
felt
lovers, yeah.
there had to be a dragon because to kind of bring home the Arthurian themes that are kind of simmering away in the background. It was you have to if you're going to do the Arthurian stuff, you have to eventually. But I've always really liked like old folklore stuff. When I was a kid, I had this is how old I am. When I was a kid, I had cassette tapes of Arthurian legends that I would listen to when I was going to sleep. I had Lord of the Rings as well on cassette.
Yeah.
And so I got interested in like, you know, the Arthurian stuff and British folklore when I was a kid, listening to them. And I had some books on folklore as well. And yeah, it's weird. So much of fantasy is described as being inspired by medieval England. But a lot of actual kind of our folklore and stuff often doesn't make it in. I saw a quote. I can't remember who said this. So I'm just gonna have to steal it without attribution. But someone said that most modern fantasy isn't set in a version of medieval England, but in a imagined medieval America. And so
I love that. That is so true. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so true. I always kind of thinking of that in the back of my head. So I was trying to kind of bring some of this older traditions that have maybe been forgotten a little bit back. Some of the folklore is Eastern European as well, and Western European. It's mostly stuff that was British, sort of a mixture of like Saxon and Gaelic and Brittonic, and there's some Polish. So I kind of pull from everywhere, but like it's mostly from like England and Scotland was where I was looking. I've lost my train of thought.
No, all good. No, as you're saying this, now I kind of want to reread the series and start taking notes and figure out where you pulled what from, just to see if I can figure out, because I'm probably someone who knows a bit more about European folklore, because that's something that growing up in Germany, I loved going to castles and read old stories about medieval Germany and whatnot. So I would probably find a couple, but I probably wouldn't even find all of them. But now I want to go through the books again with the highlighter, and it's like, ooh, this sounds like the Polish one. We'll see.
Most things in it have some kind of basis. I'm trying to think if there are any that I just made up kind of out of whole cloth. Venomborn has a lot more monsters that I'm more kind of sitting there trying to just sort of imagine them. I think everything in Rainfallen, sometimes I change things a bit to kind of suit the world I was making. But everything kind of has like there's a beast in the first book, which I won't say too much about, but it's based on like a very specific legend in England. Which is like maybe one of the more obscure ones. So I was quite happy to get to include that. You mentioned the Rain Wights as well. I actually had a bit of trouble with them.
I can imagine, like those are troubling creatures, but go ahead.
I think I thought that wights were more commonly known as like a kind of creature from folklore than it turns out they are. So I think in the first book, I don't describe them too thoroughly because I kind of thought people would know what a wight was, and if I put, to me it was like saying ice dragon or rock goblin kind of thing. So I thought if I say rain wight, I was like, people are going to know what that is, and I can just give these sort of like aesthetic descriptions here and there for atmosphere and stuff. And it turns out a lot of people don't know what a wight is, and they got a bit confused. So I had to try and like work in some more kind of like description later on to kind of fill people in. Once I realized that we weren't all kind of coming to it with the same sort of preconceptions about what the term meant. So that was something I had to learn whilst writing the series.
Yeah. All right. Which is actually not necessarily a bad thing, right? Because it gives you then, again, it's not revealing everything at the same time in book one. Like this part of the story is slowly being revealed as the story progresses. And there's a lot of stuff that you learn later on where you kind of, again, tie things back together from book one. It's like, oh, this is interesting where they're coming from and all that kind of stuff. So I thought it was actually, I didn't even think about that, but I thought it was well done.
There was definitely some stuff that I wanted to was deliberately kind of more mystical at the start that then got explained later on. And there will be a similar thing with Echoes of Alarion as well. There's some stuff that's kind of woven into book one that's not really explained at all, and it's just kind of there in the background, which by the end of the series, you should have like a good grasp on why it was there. I'm trying to like talk around spoilers for things, but hopefully there are things that are set up that in book one that you might not even notice are going to be important, but then we'll circle back around. I don't know. Hopefully that'll work out.
Well, it then definitely makes for a good series to reread, right? So once you read for the first time and you see like, oh, this is what this is. Okay, let me start over again. That's at least how I'm feeling with Rainfallen. At one point, I need to get a reread in because, you know, I now know things from book 3, but I need to get back into book 1 again. You said that you listened to the Arthurian legend on a cassette tape, and the Arthurian Saga is a big theme in the Rainfallen Saga. So was it a deliberate decision on your end that you said, like, I want to write something that is based on the Arthurian Saga, or was that like an accident that happened to have that story?
It was kind of a little bit of both. So the way that Rainfallen started was I had just played Elden Ring, which I absolutely love. And I was having a great time playing that game. And I've always been really into post-apocalyptic fiction and stuff as well. And I was kind of at a place where I really wanted to write something post-apocalyptic, but I was also like really feeling fantasy. And I kind of thought, is there a way that I can write something post-apocalyptic that maybe has some of the atmosphere of Elden Ring in it? So that was kind of the very first seed of an idea of what I was thinking. And I wrote this short piece. It was like one chapter's worth of text where I just kind of sat down and wrote. I didn't have anything else planned, just that idea of like it's post-apocalyptic, something Elden Ringy. So in that version, I wrote it. There were zombies, and there was no such thing as rain wights yet. But I wrote this chapter, and when I started, kind of just writing in this sort of almost like free writing sort of state, I wrote Galahad and Elaine, and they were just the characters that came to me, and I thought, this is really cool. Hold on. And so then I took that chapter and kind of sort of said, okay, what worked here, what didn't work? And then I outlined the series and developed the world and came up with the rain wights and did all of this. And none of that original chapter is in the trilogy. But that was kind of how I started to develop the idea. So it was a weird thing where those names just sort of came to me in the moment, but then once they did, I kind of went, this is a really good thread to keep pulling on. And then when I was outlining the books before I started writing book one, I made sure that the Arthurian stuff was in there still. So it was kind of like a happy accident, but then was also then became planned afterwards.
Yeah. All right. So you now talked about Galahad and Elaine, so two very important characters in this series. I know it's a whole bunch of characters. It's not just the two.
Yeah.
But as I alluded to earlier, right? We already established it's a dark fantasy. You pull them through the ringer. Why did you do that? The poor people. Oh my goodness.
Gosh, I don't know if I even have a good answer for that.
Why are you tormenting your characters?
It just felt right, I think, to accomplish what I wanted to thematically. It felt like they had to kind of go through a lot, and it was, I wanted it to feel like a bleak world, but one that still had hope in it. I like a lot of grimdark fantasy, but I do find it a bit much when it becomes sort of nihilistic. I didn't want that, but I definitely, I wanted this to be a dark world, and I wanted these characters to kind of go through a lot. I think in a way to kind of make it sweeter when they come out the other side of it. And there are things that they accomplish or that they realize by the end of the trilogy. Trying to talk around spoilers.
It's hard, I know.
I think they wouldn't maybe hit as hard if they hadn't been through some of the things that they do go through. And some of it as well kind of ties into I really like atypical depictions of love and love stories that don't fit the typical mold. And I think some of the things that I put the characters through in that trilogy were also so that I could build this atypical sort of depiction of love. And I think that is something that I'm really drawn to and that I do in my writing a lot. It doesn't always necessarily mean that the characters have to go through quite so much punishment. But in this series, it just felt right. But again, Echoes of Valarian is a bit lighter. They do, saying that, they do.
I just want to say, hang on, let me think about what they went through in book one alone already.
They do go through quite a lot in the next book. I'm not gonna lie, but I do think it is still less than, especially Galahad and Elaine. I think they got the worst of what I've got in me to give.
Poor people. Oh
yeah.
man. Yeah, but it's also so talking about atypical love, I appreciate that, right? It's not a cookie cutter character setup essentially that you created, because love, like, in addition to that, in general, your characters are all very flawed, all of them. Like, no matter which character you put together, they all have a very rich back history, and they went through a lot already in their life, and then in the story they go through a lot as well. So it makes for just generally some very interesting, in a morbid kind of way, characters to follow along, right? It's never boring. There's never a dull moment, definitely. So yeah, I think it's good that it happened that way.
Thank you. Cheers. Yeah, I actually when I sat down to write Venomborn, because I, like you said, I don't tend to write characters that are sort of unambiguously heroic. It's not something that I usually get drawn to. And with Kite and Effie as well, in a different way, I really wanted to write characters who were unambiguously heroic. Like, these are people that want to do the good thing and then go to do it, but I still wanted them to be flawed. So where in Rainfallen, your protagonists are more sort of morally grey, I think the protagonists in Echoes of Valarian are less morally grey. They're more kind of morally righteous. but they
Yeah,
kind of
that's
mess
very
up in
true.
other ways.
Yeah,
Um,
it's a bit more what's the word for that? At least on Kite's side, it's a bit more naive,
yeah,
a little bit. Yeah,
I think they're both naive but in different ways.
true,
Something I really wanted
true.
was for them to sort of be mirrors of each other. So like one of their strengths is kind of the other's weakness, and vice versa. And you know, they're competent in different ways, and then there are other ways that they're mirrors of each other that I can't talk about yet, that will hopefully become obvious later on. Uh, yeah,
No, all good, all good. Yeah, I loved. I You're absolutely right. Effie and Kite are very different than Galahad and Elaine. Just the makeup of them, the way they act in the world is very
mm,
different, and it is kind of an adorable setup with the two. Like again, where they're coming from, a lot has happened. There's also, some darkness that they both went through in their life, but I
mm,
love how, yeah, kind of naive they look at the world in their own way and approach that threat of the warriors coming to their world. But then also things like I distinctly remember there's a scene in the forest where Kite is like talking to his horse, and just how in general he interacts with his horse, and it's just so they are more lovable. Is what
yeah,
they're a bit more lovable characters. Not
yeah,
that Galahad and Elaine are not lovable, but it's just a very different kind of type of character that you would expect in a story. So yeah,
yeah, for sure.
awesome.
Yeah, that was definitely the intention as well. That Effie and Kite would be more endearing, I
Yeah,
suppose.
that's a better word. Yes.
Yeah, more people that you would maybe want to know in real life, whereas Galahad and Elaine maybe not. Well, maybe. I mean,
To
if the
get the
world's ending,
stories. Yeah,
you
like at a
you
campfire, a good
yeah,
drink, and then hearing their stories kind of way.
yeah. I
Yeah.
think you'd feel safe that if you were on their side and they were looking after you, but you wouldn't want to annoy them. I think.
No, I think they went through enough. They're not taking shit from anyone anymore. Mm-mm.
Nope. Yeah.
Awesome. All right, so you have your finished trilogy. You started a trilogy that you're actively writing on right now. Are you already planning ahead, or are you fully focused on the Venomborn story right now?
Yeah. I mean, I'm always planning in some way. You kind of can't stop ideas coming to you. So a lot of the time I'll just like jot them down, or in my notes app, I'll put ideas down as they come to me, and then I'll kind of think, maybe I'll do something with that, maybe I won't. But in terms of like more concrete plans, so book 2 in Echoes of Alarion, Dream Hiker, is finished, and that's being edited now. Book 3, I am about 50,000 words into the first draft.
All right.
So I am very much looking forwards now, because the trilogy isn't quite done, but I'm getting nearer to the end where I can start of. So I've got a few books that are kind of roughly outlined. What I like to do is I write like almost like query pitches
Mm-hmm.
for my stories before I do anything else now. So I will write, and then I'll kind of tweak that and workshop it. So I've got a folder with a few of them. So these are like my more mature ideas that I've had for a while, and I've kind of picked at them and written these like sort of like pitches for.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not very good at describing my books when I'm put on the spot, but when I can sit down and like write, I can write pretty good little like paragraphs that explain it. So I've got those. And I've written the first chapter of 2 separate books.
Mm-hmm.
And I think one of them will be my next book that I write. And it is a kind of like historical fantasy, alternate history, romantasy,
Oh,
I would
okay.
say. It's like
Like
very much,
official romantasy then, or again hidden romantasy?
it's more official, I would say. Like it's the A plot. It's like it's right up there. You probably, I think people say more romantic fantasy.
Yeah.
It is again, it's like a more sort of on the literary side, I would say, even more so than my other work. Like this is more of a almost slice of lifey, but it does have like quite a relatively strong hook to the plot as well. So hopefully it won't be too slow paced. But this is more of like a kind of character study piece with a love story and a little bit of action as well in the background. But this will be a little way off because I've only written one chapter, but I have got it fully planned out and outlined, and it's just a standalone. And then I do have another project in the works, which I can't really say anything about at the moment, but I can say, what can I say?
It's just us here. It's just us. You know, it's okay.
You will find out more about it fairly soon.
Okay.
I think I
Fair
can
enough.
say in the next couple of months, there should be some announcements or something. So there is something simmering in the way in the back there, which probably people won't quite expect, but hopefully people will think is pretty cool.
All right.
So that'll kick off hopefully in a couple of months, and that's a project that's been in the works for quite a while now. So pretty excited to get that out there. But I really can't say too much about it.
But you really want to. I can feel it.
Yes, yeah, it's gonna be good once it's out there, and yeah.
Yep. Okay.
That's all I can say for now. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited to see that. And just to throw that in there, probably then follow you on Instagram. Is that like your social media of choice, where we would see it then once you're ready to announce it?
Yeah, Instagram I update with all like major kind of announcements and things. I'm also on Blue Sky, but I mostly just kind of grumble on Blue Sky. It's more Instagram is my more polished professional kind of facing kind of persona, and then on Blue Sky I'm a bit more relaxed, and so you can find me over there if you want to see me kind of with the mask off a bit and kind of just sort of hanging out and grumbling about the state of the world. And on Instagram for updates, I have a newsletter as well, which you can sign up to on my website, which is just benjaminaeveryn.com. And if you do that, you will get
in the description.
Heroes of Firth for free, which is a novella set in Echoes of Valarian, which is probably my favorite novella that I think I've ever written. So,
all right.
So feel free as well if people want to get the newsletter for the novella, but don't want the updates, you can just unsubscribe. Like there's no pressure. Like it's absolutely fine to just come for the free novella and then leave again. Like I'm not going to be seething behind the computer or anything. Like nobody's watching, there's no judgment. Like you can absolutely just grab the story and go. Like I'd rather people read the story than, but if you want to stay for the updates, that's also great.
Awesome. Well, and I will put it in the description box down below, so you'll find all the links to the website, to the Instagram, and the Blue Sky if you want the ramblings as well.
Yeah.
I will put it all down there, including the links to your books. I know you're selling on Amazon, right? You have your trilogy, and you even have a complete, like a bind up of the Rainfallen Saga as a hardcover now too, right?
Yes. So everything's on Amazon, and then that hardcover you can get sort of direct from Ingram Spark as well. I don't quite exactly understand how it works, but I've got a link on my website which you can buy the hardcover from, and I get more money that way. So sure. If you want to, if you fancy the hardcover and you don't want to give Amazon money and want to give more to me, then you can grab it on my website. It's got the full trilogy in. The hardcover is a bit expensive. I tried to make it as cheap as possible, but it's just so expensive to print a hardcover book that's that long with
well, I mean, yeah, I just wanted to say it's let's see. That is a chunker. If we just put this in comparison, that's like a baby head size. That's how thick your book is.
Yeah.
So it's understandable. It's understandable. But I think through Ingram Spark, if I saw that correctly, hang on, sorry. There. If I saw that correctly, it's not just that you get more profit out of it, it's also cheaper than on Amazon, right?
It is also cheaper. Yes, correct. I should have remembered that. Yes, I should have led with that. Yes, it is also cheaper for the customer as well. Yeah. And yeah, the ebooks are all on Amazon. I'm Amazon exclusive, unfortunately, because you kind of have to be on Kindle Unlimited, and a lot of my readers are on Kindle Unlimited. But what I do say is that if you are an ebook reader and you don't like reading physical books, or you can't get hold of the physical books and you read on Kobo or something else, so you're kind of not able to read my books, then just message me on like Instagram or wherever. If you send me a message and say like, hey, I'm really interested in trying your work, but like it's really hard for me to get hold of your books, just message me and I'll sort it out for you, basically. So
awesome.
Don't feel like you're locked out. Yeah, I'm super approachable, so just hit me up and I'll make sure that you can read the series.
Yeah, he really is. He's very nice. I can attest to that.
Thanks.
He doesn't bite. He hasn't yet, at least.
Yeah, not often.
Awesome. One thing that I find interesting, so you're indie published, right? And with indie published, what I've seen when I've talked with other indie authors, there's a lot of marketing always involved. And you said yourself, you're a bit more quiet on social media. So how do you go about putting your book out there? What are you doing from a marketing side then, mostly?
So there's a range of things. I would say my biggest success has been with just like plain running ads, which I do when I'll run ads when I run a promotion. And then kind of concentrate all of my ad spend in that period, and you kind of like can sort of push yourself up the rankings by sort of like really pushing hard for a short period of time, and then afterwards you kind of tend to enjoy like more sort of natural like more kind of people finding your book organically because you're like higher up in the rankings, so people browsing Amazon and stuff will find you. So I rely on that quite a lot. It's a lot of trial and error, and sometimes things kind of fail and you end up losing out a bit, and sometimes things work better than you expected, and there's a lot of tweaking. I'm not great at it, so I'm still learning, and I just try and use every kind of like everything that I have available to me. So like I've tried loads of different kinds of ads. Facebook ads have generally been the best for me, but that might not be the way that it goes for everyone. And the interface is a nightmare. So I would love to not be using it, but here we are.
Yeah.
Sometimes I will join like community promotions as well and things like that. I like to try and push my newsletter when I can too, because it's like a really great way to kind of reach people that I know are kind of engaged and interested in my work. So that's super valuable, especially for like launches of new books. It's really great to have this roster of people who have signed up, that I can like literally write a message directly to them and like speak to them and say like, you know, I tend to be more informal in my newsletters than I am on maybe Instagram or something. You know, I'll kind of be like, "Hey folks, how's it? You know, how's it going?
Yeah.
Hope you're enjoying the weather or whatever," and kind of give a bit of like insight into how my life has been going, you know, as well, just to kind of have that relationship, which I really like. And you know, like, it's really great when people email me back as well. Like that feels really cool. And then I do a bit on social media. I tried TikTok for a while, which
that is giving me a headache. I'm too old for TikTok, I believe.
Yeah, it's weird because in a way I kind of enjoy making the videos, but it's so draining and it's so time consuming. Like I was sort of doing okay over there, sort of views wise. But I've dialed it back a lot, even though it was going well and I enjoyed it. It's just like such a commitment. I kind of, you end up sort of thinking, I could be writing right now. And ultimately that's always the best thing that you can do. Like more and more I'm realizing, like, if there's anything I can do to like maximize my writing time and take away time that I'm busy doing other things, then it always take that option. So I outsource whatever I can, and just concentrate on the writing, and then just sort of do the social media and the ad spend and the marketing and all of this just like when I have to.
Yeah.
And it's sort of it's working okay for me so far. So
that's good.
Yeah,
that's good. More people need to read your books.
Yeah. Fingers crossed for the future. Like, I've got big plans, so hopefully it's cool things coming up, and hopefully more and more readers will come in. It's a weird thing because before I published, I don't know, I was sort of pessimistic maybe in a way, because I knew that marketing was a thing for indie authors and it was going to be difficult. And I kind of thought, am I ever going to get 10 reviews on Amazon? Like, how am I even going to get 10 reviews and all this? And so how my books have done in the last 2 years has blown my initial expectations out of the water. Like, Salt in the Wound has crossed the 200 review mark on Amazon now. So there's way more than I ever thought I was going to get. And I got recognized with the semi-finalists in SPFBO and in BBMIA, and then Black Cat was a finalist in Sphinx, and all of this really cool stuff. So it's like everything's gone better than I could have expected. But at the same time, you kind of, your expectations adjust based on how you're doing. So like, my new goals now are sort of extended. So like, you're always kind of trapped between, like, in a way, looking backwards and thinking, wow, like, what I've accomplished is great, and then also looking forwards and thinking, but I want to get over there. I want to push it even further. So like, that's kind of where I'm at the moment. Is I want to reach as many people as possible, I think.
Yeah, that makes sense. Awesome. Talking about your writing. So what does a day of your life look like from a writing perspective? How much, like, do you have a specific time in the day that you set aside for writing? Are you very driven by whenever the muse hits and then, grabbing a pen in that moment? Like, how do you go about writing?
I'm very much like a schedule kind of guy. I like a routine to a degree. Like, it's not to the point of like, these are the specific hours that I write, but I do try and write every single day. Otherwise I find it can be hard to kind of keep the flow going, especially when you're writing, a fantasy novel can be over 100,000 words, and when you're, especially like now when I'm in book 3, I've got 200,000 words behind me and I'm plowing through this book, and so it's a lot to keep in your mind. So I find writing every day just helps keep you in that flow. It helps keep everything fresh in the mind. I get up between 6 and 7 in the morning each day, and I will stagger through, put the kettle on and make a cup of tea, and then I will usually like watch a YouTube video while I drink my tea, and then it's writing time. And I go straight into writing. I'll write for like 4 or 5 hours usually.
Wow.
Most days. And then depending on the day, like, I might take a break and then do a little bit more later on, or I might do some social media stuff in the afternoon, or sometimes like that's just it. I try and hit 1,500 words every day, but that's just like a kind of target goal. So it's like, I don't hit that every day, but that's kind of what I try to aim towards. So like, if I hit that, I'm like, good. If I have to stop at 1,000, that's just how it is. And then I don't try and like hold that over my head, I just go, that it was just 1,000 word day today, that's it. And sometimes I might go a little bit further, I try not to push too much past that. I find if I get like up to 2,000 words, the quality starts to suffer. And I'm quite a slow writer as well, in terms of like actual being in the seat, kind of thing, because I think about what I'm saying a lot, and I'll rewrite a lot as I'm writing. So
Yeah.
Like a prose is very important to me, and like character voice and things like that. So it will take me a while. I know some people kind of have a technique where with their first draft they don't think about that stuff as much and they just try and get the words down. That's not really my style as much. I kind of, things don't have to be perfect on the first draft, but I do like them to be pretty good still. Like,
Yeah.
I find it easier to work in the editing stage with a with text that is already like close to like a good output for me, if that makes sense.
That makes sense. Yeah.
So I do try and take my time as I go through. But yeah, that's it really. Like there's no like, I don't have any like crazy special techniques. I just get up, have a cup of tea and start writing.
That's the superpower. That's the trigger right there. That cup of tea.
Yeah, it really is. But yeah, I'm useless in the evenings. I do occasionally actually write in the evening, if I'm being honest, but it's pretty rare. Sometimes I'll just get that. Sometimes something will come to you. You're like, if there's a plot problem, you're like, that needs to be fixed, or oh, she should have said that there, not what I had. And I'll have to just put it in because otherwise I might forget. And I'm like, I need to get it in now. But for the most part, I have a pretty steady routine. Yeah, like the kind of the first half of the day is like writing time, and yeah, I just kind of plod along one day at a time until the book's finished.
Yeah. Do you then, are you more, when you then write, do you have like, are you more organized in that sense that you have an outline ready and you generally know already where you're going? Or are you, as you're writing and as you're in the scene, you're like, okay, let's see what the character's doing now and see where they're going? Like,
yeah, I think I kind of fall sort of in the middle, in terms of like writers as a whole. Like I consider myself sort of a hybrid writer, like not quite an outliner, not quite a discovery writer. I was a discovery writer for most of my life, so I would just sit down with some vague ideas and just start typing. And then I realized my plots were my weakest point. So for a long time, I really love prose. I love character work. That's what I'm interested in. So I focused on that. And I kind of realized I had this blind spot in a way. So then I worked on developing my plots better. And I read a load of books, and took some courses and stuff to kind of flesh out that part of the writing craft. And so then I tried outlining for a while after that. I kind of thought, I've got all of this knowledge about plots, let's outline. And what I ended up finding was that it was just a bit too restrictive for me. It kind of ended up stifling some of the character voice, and sometimes you end up finding when the characters feel like they're taking actions because it was in the outline and the plot demands it, rather than because it's what the character would do in the situation, like that's when you know you've got a problem. So I sort of dialed things back, and my process at the moment is kind of a blend between the two. So I'll sort of brainstorm ideas for a bit. I'll come up with like maybe some like aesthetic ideas of what I want. So like this new story, the kind of love story one that I've been doing, like I wanted to do something set sort of in the real world, in the Dark Ages, and kind of do that more historical fantasy thing. And I knew so I kind of come up with all these like kind of general ideas. And then I do a kind of outline. I use Scrivener. So it's, for if anyone doesn't know, it's like a word processor that has all of these extra functionalities built in, specifically designed for writing novels, and screenplays as well. So I can have like folders like down here with all my research, and I'll have a document for character, a document for world building, and things like that. I have all these different documents there. So like like when I'm writing Venomborn, I've got a document just called Kite and one called Effie, and then one called I've got a whole folder for Ortland, and then I've got like all these other, I've got like countries that you haven't even heard of in the books, like with their own document and stuff. So I do have like all of this kind of research there, and then I will generate the chapters all down. So like you can have these folders and stuff in Scrivener, and you can move the chapters around and stuff. So it's really great. So I'll make all the chapters at the start of the book often, and then you can create this like kind of almost corkboard thing with like sticky notes. So you'll like label each chapter vaguely what's going to happen.
Gotcha.
And then you can color code it. So I'll do that based on which character's POV it is. I know this is sounding like a lot of outlining. Now that I describe it, it feels like... But then what I do is when I actually start writing, what I find is the outline that I will do with the chapters and these bullet points is like, these are the big moments that I need to hit. And as I write, I'll add chapters in between to flesh out the characters and change things. And I never try and lock into an outline too much. So I'm always happy to like change things on the fly, or be like, actually, this character, maybe this character doesn't stay here for the rest of the book. Maybe they actually are going to join the other character and go over here and do this cool thing with the magic or whatever. I have to give myself that freedom, otherwise things start to feel stifled. I guess I do outline more than I thought, but I always try and keep things a little bit loose.
Yeah, but it's probably, with fantasy, I've never written a book, so I have no idea what I'm talking about, but I can imagine that you have this big plot line that you somehow have to make sure that you end up kind of where you want to end up, or go like at least somehow into the direction you want to go, but then you let your characters run and see how they get from point A to point B, right? Like it's not every single step is put out there. Like that's what it sounds like a little bit. You have a rough idea of
exactly it. Yeah. Like there are certain things that need to happen at the end of this trilogy that have been planned since the beginning. And then there are other things that are going to happen at the end of this trilogy that are a consequence of things that have come up along the way. It is really that you have those signposts of like, these are the big things that I know we have to get to them, and everything in between you can sort of mold
how they get there. We'll figure that out as we go. Awesome. That sounds good. All right, I have one more question for you, and then I'm seeing we're about at the hour mark right now. But that question is very important, and that is, what are you currently reading?
Oh, what am I reading? I'm reading The Sun Eater by Christopher Rocchio. I'm on, I think it's book 6. Is it Disquiet Gods? I think it's called Disquiet Gods.
That sounds about... Is that book 5? Listen, I have not read Sun Eater, so you can tell me whatever you want, and I believe you right now.
I can find out. It's on my Kindle. Disquiet Gods.
This year's finishes this year, right?
Yes. Yeah. I'm pretty excited. This is actually... Wait, I'll tell you the rest of the things I'm reading first.
Yes.
I'm reading Disquiet Gods, which is really great so far. I've just started The Rest is Politics, which is a political memoir from a politician in the UK who is a politician that I don't agree with on a lot of stuff, but I find him very interesting. And there are certain areas where we do agree. So I'm quite interested to read that and kind of sort of see a bit behind the scenes of politics and kind of see how he kind of comes to his conclusions. And sometimes it's interesting to kind of see other perspectives and stuff. Like I like to kind of keep a broad mind and stuff. What else? I've just finished reading Isles of the Emberdark by Brandon Sanderson. Which is not my favorite Cosmic novel, if I'm being honest. Big Brandon Sanderson fan. I'm not too sure about that one, but we'll see. Maybe it will grow on me. um, yeah.
Hot opinions here. All right.
Hot
I don't
takes,
know.
yeah.
Hot takes, yes.
That's what I'm reading at the moment. I've just been on a big Sally Rooney kick as well. I've just read like nearly all of her books. I haven't read Intermezzo yet, but she does like literary fiction, like sort of love stories, but not romance. But again, like we were talking about atypical depictions of love earlier. Her books are just like the perfect example of that for me. Like there are these flawed characters that shouldn't work together and maybe aren't even a good influence on each other, but like, you know, they have all of these feelings still. It's so messy and authentic. It's really great. She's fantastic. So any fantasy readers out there that want to step out of their comfort zone completely and try something different, she's really great. But yeah, that's what I've been reading.
Awesome. All right. Before we end it, anything else you want to share with us? Anything we haven't touched on yet?
There should be. I feel like there should be. I should have some. I've already plugged my newsletter. So
yes.
I've already
but
done
we can
that.
repeat it again. Sign up for his newsletters, at least to get the novella. And if you haven't read a book by him, by Benjamin, then at least you can read the novella and get started with the stories.
I think that's a great place to start as well. Heroes of Firth, because it's fairly accessible. It's like it's not too kind of complex in terms of world building and stuff. Like you are sort of thrust into this world, but you're with a character that doesn't know that much as well. So like it's pretty fast paced and it's quite short as well. So you can get through it, get a taste for my writing, and if you like it, then good news, because there's more. There's more to read.
Awesome. Well, Benjamin, thank you so much for agreeing for the interview. I'm so excited
Thank you for having me on. It's been great.
Yes, that we finally got to talk. Yay. Everyone, thanks so much for watching. Again, don't forget to check out the description box for Benjamin's social media newsletter, where you can find his books and all of that good stuff. And then, I hope I'll see you with my next video. Until then, have an amazing rest of your day. Bye, everyone.